Hi, my name is Jerry Capizzuto from godislovetruthlife.com or godislovetruthfreedom.com because a life without freedom is not a life worth living. And I am very pleased to welcome back my dear friend Leo. Leo is a Pleiadian changeling, and he and I are going to be talking about further collaborations between humanity and Pleiadians. And we also have a YouTube channel that we're eventually going to also live stream from at Nerro, NERRONGT. And we also have been working on an Equivalentics class. Here, I'll drop the link to the Nerro channel. We've been doing an Equivalentics class, which is a form of simplified quantum mechanics not taught here on Earth. That's been going pretty well. And we have a new class starting July 5th that people can join. So if you want to email either of us at ngtnerro, NERRO at gmail.com, you can. So that's the email here if you want to join the class. Or you could message us on Telegram, and I will drop our Telegram handles in the chat as well. Welcome, Leo.
Hello, nice to be here.
Yeah, so you and I are kind of working as sort of just voluntary ambassadors between our civilizations. And I've learned a lot just as your friend about how Pleiadians go about things, your culture. And it's very inspiring because humanity doesn't really have a model to work off of, really, that's for a moral society. And so I really value our friendship and what I've learned. And I'm very pleased to share your knowledge with everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah. So, overall, I think, one reason why I think it's important to share this information, there's this relationship between evolution and consciousness and objective morality. What are your thoughts on this idea?
What is objective morality?
So the way I would define it is um, basically, in a nutshell, not stealing and not kneeling. So, not harming other sentient beings, whether it be through murder, assault, rape, trespass, theft, coercion, or deception, and not kneeling, not allowing such transgressions on oneself or on other sentient beings.
Okay. And what's stopping it from becoming subjective?
Well, I think a big problem is religion, and religion um, comes from the word religare in Latin, which is to bind. So it's not necessarily just about, what one thinks of as like, uh, Judeo Christian sort of whatever religion, but also religions of thinking, for example, extraterrestrials don't exist. That's a religion.
Yeah, absolutely. Religion, as once I heard, is a diversion of faith towards a reflection of power, because not just it's not just as the saying that it is a way to control the people, but it is also something people use it to lie to themselves. Now, they absolutely, I believe in the idea of thinking that there is something greater than yourself, but when it becomes a doctrine, that's the problem. Because then it doesn't just become greater than you, it becomes the only thing that matters. And then people wage war over that, alienate family members, friends. when this is just faith. Don't give it more power than it has. It has a lot of power. It doesn't need your um, entire devotion to it in addition to it. This is the greater thing than yourself. Leave it at that. Think simple. Religion makes it complicated.
Yeah, and when I think about religion, I also think about the programming, right? Through millennia in humanity's history. We've been as a species inheriting these religious programs, and we don't question them, and we hold tight to them, and we don't have to, because it's closing ourselves off from our own evolution, firstly, but also just from ourselves. I think that these programmings were over millennia were designed so that we would continue in a condition of slavery.
Yeah, but you also give it power. It's not just because of someone um, conditioning you to be a slave, it's also you selling your soul. That's the reflection of power thing.
Yeah, and one thing that I really admire about your civilization is that your society is collectively moral. And so obviously, um, it's more free if we understand the law of freedom that as morality increases, freedom increases. Your society pretty much has achieved that. You want to talk more about how this sort of came about? Obviously, you've shared with me that you've had some civil wars in the past, but you've worked through those things as a society.
Yeah, and it's important also to notice that it's a loop. Yes, when morality increases, freedom increases, but as freedom increases, you must include morality, otherwise freedom becomes chaos. So morality has to increase as freedom increases as well. They need to increase together.
Yeah, and you shared with me before, like your version of government, which in Latin gubernare mentis, which is mind control. Um,
Oh
it's
shit.
it's flipped on its head in your culture, where it's a voluntary system in a way. You want to talk more about that?
Yeah, well, it's for us, the government is the mediator between the mega corporations, which are the ones who run society basically, and its customers, which is the rest of the population. Without the population, those mega corporations cannot survive because these are the clients. Um, and without the mega corporations, society goes back to the Stone Age. So they have an interest to work together, but since the mega corporations are so big and they need to handle lots of different opinions, lots of different people with lots of different agendas, they need a mediator. That's the that's the government. That's the role play it has. It is of course no one's going to be happy with every decision, but you need like some kind of a department or like an authority that makes sure everyone's voice is heard, and eventually it is the decision of the majority. So someone needs to regulate that. That's the government.
And if the government oversteps, you were sharing with me that because there have been so much civil wars and people pushing back, that your version of government is they're actually afraid of the people.
Yeah, well, I have seen it in my own eyes in the past 20 years. Even in the past year, I've seen one of those where the people, so okay, so the government protects the mega corporations from those events, but not the corporations themselves. They are still in like the Wild West. So I've seen a corporation um, becomes from something the size of Facebook to complete bankruptcy in 3 days because it did something that the people did not like. And this is something that 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 the mega corporations are afraid of, and so the government kind of protects them. So it doesn't really protect them if, let's say, um, the mega corporations do something that the public does not like. First of all, the government will fine them or will put them on trial or will make their product illegal or stuff like that. Now, of course, these are mega corporations. They are much stronger than the government. They can choose to ignore it, but they will be burned to ashes by the people because even though it means that they will have to go back to the Stone Age in a certain aspect, our society rather die for their principles than live unhappy.
And I think this, at its core, is one of the reasons why humanity has one of the main reasons why it's been stuck is because, um, like you said, we just give our power away. We don't stop the tyranny. We don't stop the immorality, the transgressions, and the violence. And so evil goes unchecked and corruption goes unchecked.
Right? And so the government, there's also one more thing here. The government feels like it's in control. People, of course, give them that control, but they feel like they're in more control than they should have. Our government, all the laws and the rules, they are there as a recommendation, basically. So eventually, people have the right over their own lives. So as long as your way of life does not harm other, even if it does harm you, then it's fine. If someone, let's say, wants to smoke crack all day, fine, no problem. Nothing is illegal about it. Drugs for us are completely legal, and even if they weren't, it's not like you could stop anyone. That's the whole idea.
And what I'm hearing also is this idea of like, if people want to have, whatever substances, that's their choice. Um, it's not my business what you put in your body,
Yeah,
essentially.
exactly. So like there is this city that I live in where the water are naturally infused with heroin in its natural level because of massive poppy field um, growing right on the water source of that area. So there's like signs everywhere. Don't drink the water. It's filled with drugs. Everybody drinks from the water directly from the lake, no filters and everything, because it's infused with drugs. And so the signs are there. Your choice whether to listen to it or not. It's usually mostly for tourists because, I mean, if you're not used to that level of drug, then it could have very unfortunate health effects, and they don't want to fill their hospitals with people who drank, who had basically poisoning. Um, but once it's there, that's everything the government can do. Other than that, people's choice.
And what I like about that is that the quote unquote laws are just like FYIs, right? They're not there to coerce or regulate or just kind of control. It's different there. And what I like about our talks, that I felt like, geez, we need to like share this with humanity, is these ideas are great, and they're definitely not. There's no model that we really have for these kinds of ideas. For example, you were the inspiration for the Freedom Uprising Network. Didn't I couldn't even conceive of having a monthly meeting series to help people, you know, get their business ideas out and share the funding options as a community. And this is like, a way that you guys do business. Like just like that is one example of many examples of just like how you guys do things that are like clearly not from here that are just good ideas.
Yeah, that's right. But I'm not the only one who brings ideas back. It's just usually um, they bring ideas that would other people are bringing ideas that would benefit them, which is nice. But the thing is that those kind of ideas about government and stuff doesn't benefit anyone.
And, I'm honestly like, I often wonder, why are you helping us? Like, we are overall, collectively, we're immoral, we're stubborn, we think we're the smartest species out there. We deny that, collectively, that there are other beings besides us because we don't see them. There's no proof. And there's just a general lack of empathy amongst each other as well as with other sentient beings, let alone other civilizations. Like we don't treat animals very well either, as we don't treat ourselves well. I mean, I mean, why would you? How does your civilization view humans?
Um, well, there isn't an easy way to say it, but does it view humans like our little retarded brother that needs help?
Yeah, and so I think the more interactions, right? And this is where I feel like we're aligned. The more interactions our civilizations have openly, publicly, anyone can have contact with you or with other Pleiadians. There's also channelers that channel Pleiadians as well. Um, there's just plenty of opportunity for everyday people to have uh, contact and to have friendships and learn from a more evolved species.
Yeah. So you asked before about but why am I trying to bring stuff that would help humanity? Well, that is going to be the that would be the fact that I am staying here as basically changeling to humans, and I'm not going to let go of that opportunity to live in two places at the same time. But I wish that I could go to sleep in heaven and not wake up in hell. Get my point?
So, what I find sort of tragic about humanity's condition is we're on a paradise. Like, Earth is abundant, and it is our collective mindset that creates the hell.
Right.
It's, yeah, just tragic.
Now, essentially, there is a very easy solution for me. I can move into the wilderness in Thailand and live off grid, and I will wake up in paradise as well. But I mean, everyone can do that, and nothing's gonna change that way. I believe humanity does need like some kind of guidance, and even if Pleiadians never needed that, it doesn't mean anything. It just means that they're more independent, and that's fine. That's their own journey, and not everyone can achieve um, the same results by themselves, and it's all good.
And I also want to be clear because I have been accused of this. You guys aren't here to save us. In fact, if anything, you'd rather not babysit 8 billion babies.
Yeah, absolutely. That's like, I mean, it's not rather not. It's if we come to that point, we're going to pull everything out.
Right.
There is
And
no
so,
way anyone's going to do it.
yeah. And I think again where we're aligned is there's just it really just boils down to self-responsibility. Humans need to just take care of their own shit. And what I mean by that is um the programming, the shadows, the ego, the wild ego taking over the emotions, right? Like instead of just like for example, I work at this private school and I'll sometimes see children being mean to each other, and I shared this with you before we started recording and live streaming, is like, if I see them being mean to each other, I'm like, "You can change your choice at any time. At any time, you can choose to be kind." Like, the past is gone. Like, you could ju like, we don't have to hold on to these, like, immoral religious identities that we've grown up with. We could just change.
And also, it's never too late to stop and apologize.
Yeah, that reminds me of the, Ho'oponopono, I think it's called, prayer. Have you heard of that?
No.
It's I think from the Hawaiian culture, but basically it's like, saying thank you, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me. Like that's the prayer, essentially.
No, that
Shout
sounds
out to
very
Tessa
nice.
Wild for making a song about it at Confluence. She performed that song.
That's nice.
How was your civilization able to develop a culture of um forgiveness and just not holding stubbornly to wrong ways of thinking?
Lots of violence. I know that's not the answer that you are looking for, but yeah, that's the answer that I can give you. It's because love and hate and fear are all tied to one another. In order to experience love, you must experience fear. And sometimes, in order to overcome your hate, you need to express it with, like, basically violently, like the level of violence you would see from a pressure cooker with its top on. It's going to blow out the lid, it's not going to slowly release that pressure. And when it's blowing out that lid with a sheer um, explosion of violence, after that comes the love. But without it, it's just resentment slowly building up. And if it has no release, it's never going to change.
What I'm thinking about right now and hearing you is this concept of like sacred anger, right? That like if immoral transgressions keep repeating and people, fail to learn with themselves and with each other, yeah, sometimes it's going to take what I would call force, self-defensive force to stop this. Violence, I consider um, the initiation of the transgression, but after that, everyone has a right
Yeah,
to.
don't initiate it. It Violent needs to be unpredictable. It needs to just come out. Because if you control it, then this is just cruelty.
Right. And, you know, also in looking at your civilization's history, right? Like, I think about where we are as humans right now. We have technology, which is on its way to being completely controlled by AI and other algorithms, right? So we have this like kind of slice of a window of time where we can still, kind of get the message out and try to push humanity forward in a different timeline trajectory so that we can evolve. Uh, we can be conscious, we can do our shadow work, we can be moral, we can be free, right? But it's this small period of time, and people right now, I can barely get privileged people in the West to turn their cameras on. No offense, since I know you have to take your camera off for security reasons, but in general, like people just don't want to like put themselves out there to like stop the violence essentially. So how do we activate humanity to like speak up and speak out?
Um, First, they need to acknowledge that the real enemy is the one to call out enemies. I mean, those who tell you to hate your brothers and sisters, those who call for racism, those who call for polarity, for political agendas. Like, I don't see a point of Republican American to have any sort of hate towards Democrats. They're all American. And this is like just on the micro scale. I don't see a reason for Jews to hate Muslims and vice versa. There is no point. You're all humans. No one is here invading your planet. You're all sharing the same planet. Yeah, if there is a gray alien telling you you should live this way and that way to serve me because I'm God, absolutely hate that gray alien. They are invaders.
Right. And I think what you're speaking to is this concept of divide and conquer, right? That we do have um, certain malevolent civilizations that have allied with certain occultists
Allied? No, allied. They are dealing,
dealing.
but
They're
they have
dealing.
nothing to do with your oppression. They're giving you shitty technology. Yes, you can blame them for that. Like the Hadron Collider, it's not a shitty technology. They just never told humans what it's actually doing, so they're just kind of playing with it. But this technology, the Hadron Collider, can make humanity interstellar, but they are using it to just play with atoms. Um, this is what you can blame them for not being fully honest about it. Other than that, people, by giving in to that divide and not uniting and not working together to get rid, sometimes with violence, these so-called overlords that basically declare themselves Caesars. That's the problem. That's why you are where you are, and that's the whole point of fight the enemy that calls out enemies. So, and the reason that they use this divide and conquer method is because they know that once people will get united, they will all unite against them because they are the real criminals. So while you think there's other evils out there, it works for them.
Absolutely. And, I think when you talk about these sort of dark occultists that have named themselves Caesars, what you're essentially talking about is man-made authority, whether it's through um, overt satanic, uh, control in governmental systems and religious systems and educational systems, et cetera, medical,
I'm not even
industrial.
talking about governments. Governments are the small part of it. I'm talking about the shadow governments.
Mm, right.
And it's not like anyone can say these days that they don't exist. I mean, maybe 100 years ago, it was harder to figure out that there is someone else pulling the strings. But today, I mean, I've heard the word deep state come out from almost every leader out there, yet no one's doing anything about it. They certainly can't, those leaders, like these political leaders, because they're puppets and they know they're puppets. They need people from the government themselves, from the public themselves, wanting blood.
And What's horrible is that, like, even when in the mainstream narrative, right, of things, like, okay, there's these, like, Epstein files or whatever, and, like, people still don't care. They still don't give a shit. They just care about their
Even those who give a shit, they don't give a shit enough. You know why? Because I see them the moment those documents are in the public, they share them, they show other people. What about going through them, reading them, seeing all of the inconsistencies, and then demanding answers from those who publish them of why they are reducting stuff? I mean, if you're all about sharing and disclosure, why are some things reducted? Because it's convenient for you guys? You
right.
cannot shut up about it. The things that are reducted are the things you need to worry about the most.
I mean, ultimately, like, I think humanity's just afraid. They're afraid of, like, going against their perceived man-made authority master, and it's like they're afraid of their own authority within themselves, and so how do we I mean, you guys seem to be a lot more rebellious than us. Like, how do we get humans to become more rebellious?
It has to start from the very small level. When I see that most humans kind of react to stuff that are hurting um, their own freedom, or what you'll call it, their pocket. So here I'll give you an example. Most of the truthers by now, those who would listen to this podcast, don't like the medical industrial complex, right? Every time you go to a doctor from now on, before they start anything, before you pay a dime out of your pocket, you ask them, did you support vaccines? Yes or no? Yes, you're out of the door. That's it. Start there.
Absolutely. I love that, and, there are so many ways to say no, right? Like, you can rebel in these sort of micro ways, as you're saying, because they can have ripple effects, and I'm also just thinking about how, you know, I sort of see humanity as, like, we're just a bunch of children, like, afraid of, like, you know, going against I don't know, just our own perceived parents, I guess? Like, how do we grow up?
Well, like I said, starting small. So
Mm.
at least, ranting there in public media about how much you hate vaccines is nothing because you hurt no one. You're just another voice. But when you start hurting people's actual income, that's when it matters. Because those people who did support the vaccines, I mean, doctors and everyone, they were compensated by the medical industrial complex, but they were not hurt by the people, which are the victims. So if the people will stop going to those doctors, they will have to choose between following the medical industrial complex or the general consensus. You need to be more um, aimed and willing to let go of some com- comforts. Because let's say the next doctor that did not support vaccines may not be available 20 minutes from your house, but 3 hours, worth it. That's how you start.
Or just looking into alternative healing, right? Like, there's all kinds of, ancient traditions, indigenous traditions that have a lot of wisdom that, um, have different frameworks of understanding that, um, may veer from sort of Western medicine's framework that
I
work.
agree that too.
Yeah. Um, Going back to, your and my sort of collaboration here, I think, um, the more that we can share, like, I'll be honest, like, you've been kind of like, all the ideas that you've been sharing, I think are great. Like, and I don't really care where they're from. If a good idea is a good idea, I'm going to work with that. And it's not premised on believing where you're from or anything. Um,
But I think you can figure out by now that all of my ideas cannot come from someone who is only seeing Earth, right?
yeah, I mean, the equivalentics, the simplified quantum mechanics that you've taught, which is on the narrow NGT channel, as well as on my channel, Goddess Love Truth Freedom.com, and on this YouTube. Um, yeah, those classes, which we're still not done uploading all of them that we have, um, they're very obvious that they're not from here, the lessons.
Yeah.
And you wanted to start a new class on July 5th. You want to sort of talk about why
Well,
you're
yeah,
wanting.
I am opening another class. Um, we're having a meeting every 2 weeks, so like this is just going to be every week for me. Um, we're going to run two classes at the same time, and the whole idea here is that not everyone who start will actually finish, not even the first episode, because the one thing I keep on saying, it starts kindergarten level, but it gets to 12th grade within like four meetups, and it is entirely reprogramming your mind. So I am not blaming anyone who quits in the middle, because even for me, it happens. It happened that I started it, and once it got hard, I quit, and then I returned back after 4 years, and that's fine. It's not for everyone. Equivalentics is um, completely shattering your entire doctrine of what you think about the world and starting anew. And it's not easy. And those who do it, even from one lesson to the other, I hold great respect for them. And the whole idea here is to teach as many people as possible that kind of mathematics, that kind of physics, mathematics, chemistry, whatever. Um, we have tried to prompt the humanities leaders into understanding that, but they don't seem to want to work with us. So instead, we just work directly with the people.
And I think it's not just an intellectual curiosity, it's a framework of understanding the universe's laws as described in a lot of other, like, I notice a lot of parallels, for example, with the Kybalion and Hermetic principles, with what we're learning in equivalentics. And I also notice that, and think about how um, true mathematics is a universal language, right? That's something that, from my understanding with you, uh, this is something civilizations discover as they evolve naturally.
Right. Something that happened unnaturally to humans is that they discover new the atom bomb. And I'm not talking about nuclear energy because nuclear energy is relatively easy to discover. The weaponizing of the nuke, um, it requires a lot more effort than just creating energy, because this is concentrated energy being detonated in one spot, and the problem is to get it under control. So usually, it's not usually, humans are the only ones. All of the other civilizations that discovered the nuke, the atom bomb, they discovered it after they became interstellar, not before.
This is basically an example of of a civilization that may be technologically advanced, but spiritually just not at the same level. Like we're so immoral and we're technologically advanced. Like this is like and we just keep going further and further. Like
It's
it's
a
just
recipe for disaster. Exactly what you're saying. And that's why you don't see that many spaceships in your skies because basically others are just afraid of you.
and so, how can we through this collaboration between our civilizations, how can we encourage people. I mean, I guess I'm just trying to just lead by example for myself, but I'm just trying to encourage people to just question your premises. Like, you know, you the way mathematics is taught, there's no uh sort of joy or discovery anymore. Like I think there was a sort of renaissance period um in during like the time of ancient Greece, for example, with like all these like philosophers and like all these great ideas came out. And then we just kind of like, there's been blips here and there. Obviously we have quantum physics, thanks to you guys sharing that with us. But like, I mean, overall, there's just been a sort of like intellectual like lack of progress due to religion, essentially,
No, no,
scientism.
not religion. It's because science became religion too. Science is all about discovery. But once you don't let others discover and they only have to copy, then you lose the passion for science. It becomes storytelling, boring.
And your civilization did try to share equivalentics with some humans in academia, but that didn't pan out.
Because they are afraid of their own institute. So some of them do share those ideas anonymously. Some of them, I know at least one that is sharing those ideas, saying that they are not alien-based, but more rather than its own discoveries or its own understandings of different methodologies. Um, and since he's rather famous, then they give him a break. But this guy is special, so not everyone can do the same thing he has done. Um, I'm just saying that I believe this is futile to try it this way.
I really admire the fact that, your civilization is kind of just having open contact now as a sort of trial uh experience, because clearly working with um institution institutions or people in certain whatever power positions, um my understanding is technologies have been shared with leaders, but they're not shared with the public.
Right? Um, the public cannot do anything much about those technologies. So really, there is no point. I mean, this um, equivalentics is a discoverable science, and this is something everyone can have a touch with. But if I give people the diagrams on how to build wireless electricity or a medbed, it's not like they could actually do something about it
Because of the
because they don't have the means to build it.
right. And so um you sort of are working with just everyday moral, more spiritually aligned humans as a sort of starting point now.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Um, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great because it also, I think, gives another motivation for humans. Like, if you want to parlay with other benevolent civilizations, you have to sort of show yourself to be trustworthy, and that's by being moral.
Yeah, that's the only way. Because otherwise, you'll just be ending up like Grace. And I don't know. I think most of the ET community knows what Greys are, and they know that's not something that you want to be associated with. And while I am working with Greys, um, they know what they are. So like they are not being offended by my comments.
It's sad that, we're at a point where grays are considered easier to work with than humans.
Oh yeah, I used to work with the white hats, and it's very sad to say that, but I'm at a point where I trust the Greys more than I trust the white hats.
So, yeah, you know, I basically also am thinking about it's not just about there's this sort of like chicken or egg situation when it comes to evolution, right? Like, yes, morality will raise your consciousness, but I also think, and I've learned this through learning equivalentics, you need to also be humble. You need to also do the shadow work, the inner work, and be able to say, I was wrong. I was wrong in the way I was thinking about things before. I think that's also part of the evolutionary process. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, um, it's about being open to the possibility of change. A good friend of mine once told me that. And if I'm not mistaken, he moved permanently out.
And let's talk about that. Um, Humans can astral travel, right? They can learn certain techniques like you told me about the wild technique if people want to look up for out of body experience.
Yeah, basically that's where you start the astral travel. Unlike astral projection, where you can feel like you fly and see different stuff very fast, astral travel is basically using your other default body, which is by default you have two. You have the 3D and the 5D. Total, both of them together should be alive for about between 130 and 150 years. And so after you die on the 3D here, you move to the 5D automatically. And you can also start using that body before that. Every time you use a light ability, every time you astral travel, um, and also when you die, this is when you start using that 5D body. And it is always there. It's just that you need to kind of start waking it up by activating different glands. I think it's the pineal one, whatever you call the third eye.
Yeah, the pineal gland. Yeah.
Yeah, so that one.
And you're suggesting that if everyday regular people want to go through their own sort of personal evolution for collective evolution, they can start just traveling and interacting with your civilization. Like, how do they? What should they do for that?
So there are different gates everywhere. They'll see that the place that they end up on at first is kind of a wasteland because it's just mostly empty. Um, Very dark. There is no electricity anywhere, so it's very easy to spot lights far away. And just take a vehicle that are just lying there on the road. Usually the keys are inside, and just get to one of those places with lights on. Usually they also have a gate, those because those colonies will be surrounding a gate, and a gate like a portal gate, like in Stargate. Well, it doesn't exactly look like that, but you get the idea. And then you just go through that gate, and you end up on my home planet.
Are there certain countries that have more or less gates?
Yes. Well, in China, they destroyed all the gates, so there aren't any there. In the United States, it depends on the situation. Um, Places that you really feel the hand of that evil government are places that are also unsafe on the astral realm. And places where you have more freedom are places that are more safe in the astral realm. So basically, just kind of go through with that. So I'll give you an example. If you live in Maryland, it sounds like a very nice place to live, but you'll see that um, it's like a police state. And so the same thing goes in the astral as well. So in this case, I would wait for it to be liberated because it is happening. It just takes time. But in Florida, you have 7 gates in total. California also, and California does not feel like a police state, but this is a very dangerous place. So I mean, if you're living there right now, skip astral travel. Um,
What about internationally?
in Europe, there's lots of gates. Right now, the countries that don't have gates are France, Spain, the Netherlands, some parts of the UK, um, and obviously Ukraine and Russia. No, actually, in Russia there are gates. Um, yeah, that's the ones I can think of that don't have any.
What about in the southern hemisphere?
Which is what? Which countries?
Australia, South America, most of
Lots of gates
Africa.
of Australia, in Australia and New Zealand. It's just not everywhere in New Zealand. Lots of places on Terra, the parallel Earth, um, that are in New Zealand are actually frozen. The poles are a little bit unaligned, um, so they don't have gates, obviously. And same goes for Tanzania in Australia. It's a frozen tundra, so also no gates. Um, Regarding South America, there are some gates in Brazil and also in Peru, and we are working on opening on in Venezuela, and there's also in Belize. But other than that, there aren't that many because it's spiritually um, closed, you can say. So it's equally hell on the astral realm.
What I'm hearing you talk about is basically like the more religiously minded uh, humans are in an area, the likelihood of a gate is less,
Right,
essentially.
because those religious close-minded um, doctrines are attracting evil and malevolent civilizations and entities, and they are unfortunately the ones controlling the astral realm.
And so, for people, once they do get to a gate, um, obviously you don't need to wait to pass on to travel. You could just do it now consciously. Well, when you're sleeping and traveling astrally. So
Or
once
on shrooms. You can also do it on shrooms.
mm, psilocybin.
Yeah, that's the easiest one, but there are others.
What other species of mushroom?
Well, I don't really know. That's the only one I know the name of, but like if you show me pictures, I would be able to say.
Okay. Um, yeah, so if people travel more, I mean, I can say for myself, I've learned a lot through um, plant medicine, especially mushrooms. Um, I've sort of experienced my own death in a way where now I don't really have fear of death anymore, which sort of drove a lot of my behavior previously. Um, as an example of a way that one can evolve through their fears. Um, what else can people sort of learn, like, beyond just, "Wow, you guys do it awesome on your planet." Like, what what can they what can people
I
expect for people that haven't done it?
Yeah, I don't really understand your question.
I guess for people that haven't ever astral traveled, what can they expect? I mean,
Oh, first that it's another form of reality. Yes, Terra is more surreal and so kind of feels like Harry Potter in a way, just without the wands or anything. But there like stuff that you most would consider magic are possible on Terra. Even levitation, it's just much harder than just flying somewhere. It takes a lot of concentration, and I'm telling you that because I was able to do it once, and I've been living on, like coming in and out of Terra for 20 years, and it's very, very hard. So, like, don't expect to just let it happen. And if it does, it usually means it's not travel, but projection. And it's a reality on its own. You can get hurt there. Um, it's just okay. So one of the ways to know that it's not a dream or an astral projection is that it may be boring at some times because it's reality, and reality isn't 100% interesting all the time. And so one of the ways that I would do if someone was asking me, am I on your home planet or not? I would ask them, describe me the scenery. And usually if they can't, I would say that they're not, because this is the most interesting part about that trip. Because other than that, eating is the same, sleeping is the same, walking is the same.
yeah, I would say in my travels, you're right. I do recall the way things look a lot because it's like I'm not really I just haven't seen scenery like that before, which is a strange sort of thing to remember because I don't normally think about that.
Yeah. So the scenery is very different. Now I am collecting different renderings. Sometimes I render it myself, and and it is, and while it's still used for Pleiadians, which are I mean, if you look at a Pleiadian, they won't look very different from humans, maybe younger. Um, and so it's built, the architecture is built for these kind of people as well. It's just more advanced and more, you can say, utopia. Like you could call it, I think, solar punk, if I'm not mistaken. So it's kind of like that, but you can see almost everything. Sometimes even like steampunk I've seen, and so it just feels more big. Yeah,
I think what my takeaways from traveling and interacting is like I'm just struck by how kind people are on your planet.
yeah.
Everyone's like really kind, and I'm not
Social,
used to that. Say that again?
social.
Yeah. Um, could you talk a little bit about the difference between, because you and I have had this discussion, social ego and personal ego?
Yeah, that's the level of development for a civilization. So there are like 7 levels. Um, there is a survival, sentient, personal ego, ascension, social ego, transcendence, and then collective. So Pleiadians are in social ego, um, and they are um, as a civilization, I'm saying. And while there are humans who are operating by social ego and ascension, as a civilization, the vast majority is in personal ego. And so the personal ego is thinking only about your needs and trying to suppress ego. And social ego is understanding that ego is part of you. It's not alienating yourself from it, thinking about your personal ego while thinking about the others. And that is developing a sense of different way of doing business and trade with each other that is a win-win situation, thriving towards win-win at every exchange.
Yes, I love this. It's something that, like, literally the study of business of here is centered on economics, which is centered on scarcity, a win-lose. Whereas you guys have just a sort of totally different way of doing business, which I really admire.
Yeah, we are. Now, of course, if you're trying to look at the same thing, let's say money, it has to be win-lose. Um, but the idea is for us that someone is losing money and gaining service or gaining something they could not buy with money, or that it would cost them a lot more than just doing it with someone else. So it's not about um, getting the cheapest possible deal. It's about paying the right amount for the best value that you actually need. So let's say you go to like a mechanic or no, you know what? Even a car agency. So let's say that car agency sells all types of cars. You actually just need a vehicle that runs. You don't need it to be fast. You don't need it to be luxurious. So um, you are just willing to pay a certain amount of money without the hassle in it, and the salesperson will just give you a running car. If you're looking for something to impress others, then he'll give you a Rolls Royce. If you're looking for something that runs really fast, then he'll give you a Ferrari. That's about it. I mean, it's about not trying to get the cheapest deal. It's about finding the right product. This is what sales is for us. It's about um, making sure that you get the right product for your needs, nothing more, nothing less.
While you tell this story, it reminds me of I used to work for this like medical device company. It was like selling, this was before the iPad, where they were selling like communication devices for for people that were nonverbal. And sometimes I was like one of the worst sales reps because I would recommend competitors' products sometimes to clients because I just genuinely wanted them to find the right product for their needs. But if everyone operated that way, like, and instead of just looking out for their own, gain, what a different world we would have.
But it's not just about looking for the gain. It is also because they understand that someone who is unhappy with the product and feels that they pay too much will be unlikely to recommend your product. So eventually, the best kind of advertisement is a happy client. And while businesses here do understand that concept, they don't integrate it into the way they do business. Because it's not just about clients that need to be happy, but clients' friends, clients' family, um, investors, they all need to be considered. So, like, for example, we don't have any noise in cars because people will not be very happy about that noise. So then they will be unlikely to recommend a car simple or buy a car simply because it's very noisy and their neighbor who uses it a lot just drives them crazy.
Um, yeah, I just feel like overall you guys are just more considerate, kinder. You don't take shit from authority. You mind your own business. You live and let
Well,
live.
we're not afraid.
Right.
I mean, yes, live and let live. We mind our own business, but if someone disturbs that tranquility, we are not afraid to act upon it.
Yes. And um I feel like we're, very lucky that you guys are wanting to even interact with us cuz like I said, like we really don't deserve it.
Okay,
I
that's
mean,
another problem.
yeah.
Why don't you deserve it?
Um I feel like I let me say this. I don't want to seem like I hate humanity, okay? I wouldn't be doing this podcasting if I didn't care. However, I am so disappointed in the dissonance between where I know where we are and where we could be. And that dissonance is the frustrating aspect for me. And maybe that's something I need to work on, right? In my own shadow work journey. Maybe I need to learn to be more patient. Maybe that's my lesson, right? Maybe I selfishly just want to see change in my lifetime. So just being aware of that. There's been plenty of people trying to, you know, support humanity's evolution over the millennia. All kinds of figures have incarnated, and to what avail? But, um, you know, at least we're each of us that have a certain vision for what we think humanity can evolve into as we speak out, maybe humanity can move closer and closer towards that goal. But yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth. Like part of me just like, and that's so it's the light and the dark within myself. Like I see I see both at the same time. I don't know. That didn't really I didn't really answer your question.
Yeah, why do you think they don't deserve it?
I think the children deserve it. I don't think the adults do.
Actually, I think no one deserves it,
Okay.
not even Pleiadians. You, and you cannot just sit there and wait for someone to give it to you. Whatever you want, you have to take it. You have to sacrifice your current comfort for a better future. It's only up to you. Yes, you will find those who will help you along the way, but they are not working for you. They do it for their own reasons. And also don't be so gullible. Everyone has an agenda. Nothing comes for free. Now, because you don't believe in win-win situations, then sometimes you won't be able to easily recognize what's in it for them. But trust that there is always. It's always an exchange. And so the best way to know with civilizations that are not human is just ask them, because most civilizations are not comfortable lying. Um, Humans and maybe two or three more are more comfortable with lying, so asking them is not going to help. But let's say Pleiadians, ask them, they will tell you. And this is one of the best ways to do it. Um, if you don't ask, they won't tell you. That's just the way it works. I mean, humans are lying, but what is the good thing about them? That they will give you information that they think you want to know, while Pleiadians won't. Unless you ask, you won't be given anything. So you just have to learn to ask. Um, so I think no one deserves anything. If you want something, ask for it. And if you're not getting it anyway, take it.
I love that. Essentially, you're basically talking about the self responsibility, the work. People need to do the work themselves. I guess what I meant was you guys are a more evolved species. Um, the win win, I guess, maybe is there in the sense that, humanity is very creative. We're kind of cousins of yours in a way. So, like, it would benefit you to have some of us, working and interacting with you guys. But, like, I mean, you guys don't really like work. I kind of feel like right now, like, humanity's kind of like a dead weight a little bit. But you're right. Like, how can we not be a dead weight? We have to do the work. And that's an individual and collective decision.
Yeah, and right now the Galactic Federation of Worlds does agree with you that humanity is a dead weight. So it's not like they completely cut communications, but people who are well involved with channeling or ET community, they see massive decrease in communication with the Galactic Federation of Worlds, and that's because recently they decided to cut ties with humanity as they see it as a bottomless pit. It doesn't mean I mean, the Galactic Federation of Worlds is not the only galactic federation, and it's certainly not the only Pleiadian galactic federation. There is about 25 billion Pleiadians all over the galaxy. Um, 10 billion of them are in the home planet. This federation, the NGT, is that is actively communicating right now with humans, is actually not really a space federation. It is based on the home planet, but it is welcoming other species not local to that home planet into that home planet. And today, the place where it comes from, which is Floreline, or as it used to be called before, Tamarin or Furcon La Forel, um, they are. Um, this is considered the best place to live currently in the galaxy. And up until 25 years ago, maybe less, it did not open its gates. So now that it is, then it is considered again one of the best places to live. When it didn't open its gates, obviously it was not an option, so nobody talked about it. But today, this is the case. And it has, I can tell you that in the past 36 months, it has increased by 120 million new people moving in. Humans included.
What percentage of people on your planet are human?
On the planet, I don't really know. In the supranation that I'm talking about um, 20%.
I know we should probably end soon just because attention spans are low, even for like an hour, but um, you've told me before that humans tend to adapt to the culture they're in, whereas here on Earth, when it's just humans with amongst humans, ostensibly, generally, um, we just kind of, I don't know, lack direction or focus in evolving.
Yeah. Actually, maybe you want to cut what I'm going to say next because it's going to sound a little bit racist. Um, but it's the same concept that why Israel doesn't work, because these are lots of Jews in the same place. And the thing is that Jews work the best when they are the minority.
We're live streaming, Leo. Why would you say that? It's fine. We're on
But I
YouTube.
mean,
Fuck YouTube.
many Jews think the same.
Yeah. I mean, the way I see it, and I know that there's a lot of divide and conquer happening, so I'm just trying to be careful about it. I'm not trying
All
to.
right, we can drop that subject. Base a certain essentially, this is my opinion, and I gave it as an analogy for why humans work better in Pleiadian planets rather than on their own, because they are the minority. So it's not just Jews; it's humans in general.
I mean, yeah, humans, I I think that I within myself, um it's like I just want a world where we can just interact as civilizations openly and without ridicule, without um pomp and circumstance. We could do business with each other. We could do creative projects with each other, shoot the shit with each other, just be friends with each other. Like, I think that alone would be effective for breaking through this human only culture that's been created, right? Like where we're just like kind of like just running on this hamster wheel of our like ancient programming and fighting with each other and amongst ourselves. It's like if we just injected just like another like culture into this, it would just change the field.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to achieve.
We have a question. What do y'all think about Congressman Burleson saying he had a meeting with top evangelical pastors across USA, told them to prepare their church congregation for upcoming disclosure? I, for one, don't give a shit about government's version of disclosure or any religious organization's version of disclosure. I think one of the beautiful things about what Leo and I and people like Rob Khalil and others are doing is just everyday people having open contact. Why does it need to be mediated through an institution? But what are your thoughts, Leo, on that question?
I don't know this guy, and I don't know what he's talking about. Um, you just gotta ask yourself, why would he want to disclose? What's the agenda? And don't say them to yourself, oh, he doesn't have an agenda. Of course he has an agenda. He's just very good at hiding it. Um, really understand what's the agenda. Because I can tell you there are civilizations out there in the galaxy, and I don't want to use names right now, um, that will not lie to you, but they will not give you all of the truth because some of the truth they are not willing to share, or that they are um, ashamed of it, while truth should be raw and complete. So when someone is doing disclosure from an agenda point of view, know that you're not going to get all the truth, if you are going to get truth at all.
Yeah, and I mean, on the one hand, I think it's one of those things where like we're the white hats or all these sort of like organizations on the governmental level, they need to there's a communication plan, right, with their version of disclosure, and so they're going to need to interact with the other systems of control to sort of maintain control, because that's what it's really about. It's not about disclosure, it's about maintaining the control always.
Right? So just look at the agenda. The fact that they want to keep control doesn't mean that they don't oppose the current agenda. And then only then you may get like a better version of disclosure. But just understand that some of the things that they would say would not fit with your current perspective, and that's fine. It's about learning new stuff. And second, it might also contradict things that I say, because I try to give you truth as raw as possible. You see, I'm not really apologizing for anything, even if I'm saying stuff that are very contradicting to the general consensus. Um, I'm not saying I'm the best authority out there. I'm just saying I'm one of those kinds that their agenda works with informing the people about what reality truly is without sugarcoating anything. Now, it may not fit for everyone, but you can be assured that I will give you the clearest picture of um, truth that I can. And of course, just so you understand, nothing can beat your own perspective of seeing things in your own eyes. So just because I'm here telling you the truth out there doesn't mean you shouldn't ask for trouble because, oh, someone told me what it is. I can rest assured, and yeah, that's probably the truth, probably. But you could only know if you try for yourself.
I think that's what makes this version, this raw grassroots version of disclosure more real, because we don't have a control agenda here. I just I think what we're doing is, like you said, just inviting people to do their own research, to go through their own, trivium process, understanding it, getting the input, processing it, and then sharing it with others, hopefully, so that, disclosure can be done by the people rather than through a government or through a religious institution.
And also, please don't be afraid to um, say something that lays skepticism in what I'm saying. Don't be afraid to open a debate. This is also the Pleiadian way. We learn with debate. Just be open to the possibility of change, and also believe everything until proven otherwise. This is very different from how humans usually operate, which they believe everything when presented with proof. And just so you know, proof is very easy. to fabricate. Just look at AI, and understand that the version of AI that you have right now is probably less advanced than what the military industrial complex has. So they can really fabricate proofs like you have no idea. And so the way that we operate is believe everything until proven otherwise. Um, it's easier to believe everything, you stay open-minded, and to be proven otherwise is for someone to have to fail, to not be able to be consistent with whatever they share, and this is not something you can fabricate.
I think for me, and I've talked about this when we were on Rob's show, but um a lot of people stay in their sort of left brain and they just handle new information with their sense of like logic and reasoning. But especially when you're talking about extraterrestrial experiencing and contact, like you do have to sort of open up the rest of your mind to your intuition, to your emotions, to empathy, to um light abilities, telepathy, psychic connections, astral travel, like all these things are sort of like mushy in terms of supposed, you know, what one considers a more refined version of evidence. Whereas I actually think experience is the highest form of uh, evidence. Through direct experience, I'm not telling anyone to believe or not believe in ETs. I've experienced. We're inviting listeners to experience.
Right.
How different
And
species.
until you come to a point where you can experience, um, just ask the questions. Like I said before, I'm a Pleiadian, so if you want to know something, just ask.
Thank you so much for these questions. How different species of NHI does he think are on Earth at this moment? How many different species?
On
Non-human
Earth,
intelligence. Yeah.
um, well, there are many subspecies of reptilians. So if we're not counting the subspecies, I'd say 5. If we are counting the subspecies, over 100 probably.
Dang, dude. I didn't know that.
Yeah, there's lots of, I mean, every civilization that you've heard of reptilians could be a subspecies. See, reptilians civilizations are relatively small. So that's why they could be different species every time. They live a long time and they don't reprocreate very fast. That's why you may have heard in many occasions the ideas of hybrids when it comes to reptilians, because they just don't reprocreate very fast and they envy humans that do.
Are they walking amongst humanity or are they in the oceans or underground?
So most of the reptilians are underground because they are afraid of humanity. Um, they are most of them are herbivores, and so they are usually at the bottom of the food chain. So they know how humans treat other animals, and they just don't want to become food or worse. And these are like the ones hiding. The ones that are not hiding are usually the ones you need to be afraid of because they are not afraid of you. Um, they will be the ones walking among. Of course, unless they're hiding, because if like you suspect someone is a reptilian, and um, because they shapeshift, shapeshifting is not exactly malevolent. It could be a survival instinct. Sometimes it is malevolent. I'm not saying it's not at all, but it could be that it's just survival instinct where they are afraid of you more than you're afraid of them, and that's something that kind of relationship you want to have with someone that is alien to your world, that they will be afraid of you more than you're afraid of them. So that's a good thing. Um, Pleiadians definitely walk among you, and I told you before, if you go out even on my home planet, you cannot tell apart humans and Pleiadians, and so many of them may walk between you, and you'd never know. But they try to blend in. Most Pleiadians try to blend in. That's something they. It's not just what they do; they like it. That's why they're here.
I've been recording an odd creature here for the past week, almost same time every evening. It makes uh, Maisie the dog get howl hyped up, and she's never like that. She even barks, which is rare for her. Yes, I think about like um, I'm whenever I'm with animals, I always sort of like attune to them as well with their emotions because they obviously can sense things as well. But what are your thoughts on working with animals to sense uh, sort of energy?
So, on a personal opinion, I would do it with cats and not with dogs because dogs are territorial. So they might be worked up over a squirrel. And so it's about territory invasion, not about actual um, um, agenda of that creature. That creature can be very nice, the dog will still get worked up about it. Cats, they are they are territorial, but not obsessed about it like dogs. So if they act up, they would usually know the energy is off.
Is this why, like, the Egyptians had such a relationship with cats?
Maybe, but also because dogs did not exist in old Egypt.
Mm,
Dogs is something that humanity created.
mm.
Cats were always around. They are not just pets. This is a species on its own. Dogs are man-made,
Through the breeding, yeah.
right? Cats are not breeded. Just another species of um, cats, basically. Like they're just very small ones. Now, the reason that they tend to hang around humans is because look at the wild. If those small creatures would be out there competing with their other feline uh, competitors, they would not survive. Humans are the reason they can survive. So they domesticated themselves.
Um, as we kind of close, unless anyone has any other questions, because we'll do this again. We'll probably have to like come up with a schedule, Leo, so that we get like a following. Because like, anyway, but we'll talk about that later. But yeah, I really just want to just close with the idea and concept also of because there's a lot of people here from the typical skeptic podcast, which reminded me of this idea between learnability and skepticism, right? Like, if you're going to be like, ETs don't exist, this is bullshit, Leo's lying, Jerry's full of shit, like, and I've had people do that already. They already have made these videos. And to that, I say, you're shutting the door on your own cage. You are limiting yourself automatically to any possibility of learning anything new. And why would you do that to yourself? Um, do you have anything to add? We also have a question. What are the orbs? What's up with the orbs?
Okay, I don't have anything to add much about that closing of the door. About the orbs, there isn't a single answer for it. Like the best answer I can give you is I don't really know. It's not like I don't acknowledge they exist, but we just don't know what it is. And like there's lots of theories, but they are not consistent. So right now it stays in the unknown realm.
Is it possible that the orbs people see are just astral traveling humans?
Or other entities. That's yeah, mostly other entities. They need to be a bit stronger than a human in terms of spiritual level, because basically they are emitting such a strong energy that is leaking from the 5D to the 3D. So it requires more than just a human.
I've shared with this idea with you offline, but I'll share it publicly.
Could be a super soldier.
Oh, interesting. Um, I've always, because I kind of shared a little bit when we were on Rob's podcast about how I was very close to getting involved as a child with the Catholic Church and the child sex trafficking that they do. And so as an adult, I really made a point of doing satanic ritual abuse survivor research. And um, in that process, I've really just, when I'm alone and I sense that there's like an imminent child sacrifice ritual happening in my area, I will literally like send myself to that child or children to let them know that they're loved, that there's somebody out there that cares for them. And like, and I've done that. And like, I've had like communication with those children. Um, because at least if I can't stop it, at least I can let them know that that exists for them. And I got the idea because peop the SRA survivors were saying they were seeing orbs comforting them. And I was like, why can't we humans just be an orb to these children, you
Maybe
know?
that's what they are.
I like to keep an open mind, listen to everyone's experiences. Doesn't mean I have to agree. It's good to, yeah, exactly. No one's asking, right. Yep. More data points. Yeah. Um, all right. Well, yeah, so I love that we're getting kind of cross watchers from Rob's channel. We should definitely head up on Rob's again. Rob is awesome. Um, and yeah, I'm so glad that people that tuned in today are keeping an open mind. No, we're not, you know, in my own sort of friendship with you, Leo, like it just kind of evolved naturally and I got more and more experiences and like or quote unquote evidence and like that's all that we're really doing is just yeah, just supporting people's learning experience really.
Yeah, true.
All right. Aw, thank you. That's so kind. Yes, please share. We're eventually going to, I'm just gonna repost. We're eventually gonna start sharing live streams on the Narrow NGT channel on YouTube. If you want to join the Equivalentics class, the newest sort of starting from lesson 1 class on July 5th, you can email either of us at this email address, ngtnarrow@gmail.com, or you could message either of us on Telegram. Leo is at NZ1_NZ6, and I'm at God is Left Truth Freedom A47019. And thanks for tuning in, everyone. See you next time.
Thank you.